Hello and welcome to Business Nigeria, where we'll bring you the latest and trending stories in the world of business across the nation. I am Ugochi Olibo. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria says there is need to invest more in the basic infrastructure, information technology, and pay closer attention to agriculture for increased revenue into the coffers of government. Godwin Emefiele said, quote, "This is paramount to at this time where we are hit with recession. Revenue to all tiers of government continues to dwindle while inflation also remains on the high side," end quote. We have details in this report.
Nigeria's Consumer Price Index showed an increase by 18.3% year-on-year in October, following a 17.9% growth the previous month, moving just slightly above market expectations of 18.2%. It is the highest inflation rate since October 2005 and has been marked by a surge in prices of food items. This and more economic challenges facing the country seems to be defying government's policies. And agencies most directly affected now are the bankers who monitor, implement, and regulate issues relating to the financial services sector.
The CBN will be abjectly failing on one of its cardinal objectives if it cuts interest rates at this time. Second, for those who say we need a rate cut to spur growth, we need to remind ourselves that high inflation is highly inimical to economic growth.
The National Bureau of Statistics' recent data is not the good news many investors were hoping for, with the GDP declining as much as 2.1% in the second quarter after shrinking by 0.36% in the first quarter. And as analysts have continued to warn, the drop in oil price and foreign exchange volatility will still be the major problems for the Nigerian economy.
Our FX reserves had fallen from the aforementioned high of $62 billion in 2008 to just $37 billion. Yet, demand for FX has reached an all-time high of over $1.2 billion per week, or $4.8 billion per month. What then can we do to remedy this situation?
The man on the street should go for less of Thailand rice and more of Abakaliki rice. The man on the street should learn how to make use of our local prints and Ankara as opposed to what we import from other parts of the world. So if the man on the street can have this kind of paradigm shifts, he will live a better life. A life that is more dependent on things that we produce locally and less dependent on imported items.
And as custodians of Nigeria's most critical sector in managing finances, this annual gathering of bankers again refocuses on the promotion of the needed institutional framework that guarantees professionalism.
The Monetary Policy Committee has retained a key interest rate at 14%, cash reserve requirement at 22.5%, and liquidity ratio at 30%. It says price stability and the monetary policy's limitation in influencing output were put in consideration before arriving at this decision. This is against the backdrop of its economic assessments that shows risks remain high on price and output. Lara Folayan reports.
Nigeria's last Monetary Policy Committee meeting for the year, an outing that leaves the monetary policy stance unchanged. The committee's review of the country's economic state shows growth and inflation in the medium term remains challenging. An insufficient fiscal policy space is held responsible for this. The committee feels existing monetary policy decisions and improved agricultural output could help contain and moderate price increases, hence the need to retain this stance.
All 10 MPC members voted to 1. Retain MPR at 14%, retain CRR at 22.5%, retain liquidity ratio at 30%, retain the asymmetric window at plus 200 and minus 500 basis points around the MPR.
The committee supports security agents sustaining checks on some foreign exchange operators to control their excesses, but refutes reports of possible jail terms for defaulting foreign exchange dealers, as existing regulations have no such provisions. It nonetheless advises bureau de change operators to comply with operating terms of their licenses.
Yes, we will advise against a clause that forbids people from keeping their dollars if they choose to, or a law that says that people should be jailed for keeping foreign currency. I repeat, there is nothing in our current and extant foreign exchange regulations that says that people will be jailed or that their foreign currencies will be confiscated.
The central bank governor says rumors on the banking system's risks are being over-elevated. He says the Apex Bank will not hesitate to strengthen prudential guidelines on protecting banks and depositors. The Apex Bank as well recommends that a robust macroeconomic framework be put in place by the authorities, as monetary policies alone cannot revive the economy. Lara Folayo, TVC News, Abuja.
Nigeria's monetary authorities have left MPR rate unchanged at 14%, saying to do otherwise could further hurt the economy. But some manufacturers, however, want the central bank to lessen their burden of tax and huge interest rate payments. We have as our analyst, Muda Yusuf, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Can you hear me, Muda Yusuf?
Hello?
Thanks for joining us on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, let's begin with asking you, do you consider the action of the CBN in leaving the MPR unchanged appropriate at this time?
Well, I don't think so. Although, for economic policy matters, there are arguments on both sides on whatever policy option has been taken. The argument of the CBN is that because of the current level of inflation, which is very high, it should not be right to relax the monetary policy position. But our argument is that the inflation that we are experiencing now is driven not so much by monetary factors. It's driven by the currency depreciation factor. It's also driven by high energy costs and high transportation costs. So unless you address those fundamental drivers of inflation, much with tighter monetary policy, you are not likely to achieve much. And the worry among the business community is that if you are in a recession, one part of a recession is to stimulate spending. In most parts of the world, once you have recession, what the government talk about, what the monetary authorities talk about is stimulus. And you can have stimulus at the level of government, as government stimulus spending. You can have stimulus at the private sector, which is investment spending. You can have stimulus at the level of the household, which is household spending. So we believe that in order to bring the economy out of this recession, we need to stimulate investment spending. And you cannot stimulate investment spending if your interest rate remains high. That is the premise of our own argument. Because right now, of course, businesses are facing a lot of challenges. But one of the major challenges is also the high cost of funds. Because already they are dealing with the problem with currency depreciation, which has increased their operating costs. They are dealing with the problem of forex scarcity, which has created a lot of uncertainty because they are not sure of when they get the forex, how much they will get. It's making planning very difficult. They are dealing with the issue of high energy costs arising from the high cost of diesel, high cost of gas, and even scarcity of gas. So if there's any variable that you can easily even deploy at this point, it's for us to reduce interest rates so that businesses can have some more capital, more room to be able to invest. Because the way the economy is, unless we're able to stimulate investment, domestic investment, foreign investment, and household spending, it will be difficult for us to get out of this situation. And we also need to create more certainty, more stability around our foreign exchange management. We need to look not just at the demand management of foreign exchange, we also need to look at the supply side, how we can incentivize more supply from other sources into this economy.
Okay.
So that is my own perspective on the issue. We believe that we need to do something about cost of fund. I mean, you can see the level of even non-performing loans in the banking system. You look at the Central Bank Financial Stability Report. Between January and June, the non-performing loans have gone up by more than 100%. And part of the reason is the high cost of funds. It is so difficult for business to service existing loans. Many investments have ended up with AMCON because businesses cannot cope. So we need to look at this and find a way around it. I mean, in most economic management issues, it's a balancing act.
Absolutely.
Every policy option has its merits, it has its demerits. But we need to look at the balance of advantage and disadvantage.
Okay.
But in this case, I think the balance should be on the side of what we can do to stimulate investment and encourage job creation.
Oh, talking about creating jobs, we know the manufacturing sector plays that role. How do you think the CBN can convince the manufacturing sector on the current interest rates regime?
Come again?
How do you think the CBN can convince the manufacturing sector on the current interest rate regime?
No, it is very difficult. You see, it has to be a combination of factors. I'm not saying that monetary policy alone or interest rate policy alone can get the manufacturing sector out of the current crisis. No. But it is part of the solution. Another major issue is the forex, because the structure of manufacturing is such that the sector is also still highly import dependent for a lot of its inputs. It's a structural issue. And it's not something that you can transform overnight. It is not so easy to begin to look inwards within a year or two. It's something that will take time. So we need to find a form of accommodation within the foreign exchange policy to ensure that there is more certainty, there's more stability, and there is more equity in the way we manage the foreign exchange market. And it will be very difficult if we continue with this process of administrative allocation of foreign exchange. It will be very difficult kind of equity that we need to inspire the confidence of investors. And the margin between the official market and the open market, it also continues to be a major source of distortion. It is part of the thing that has been putting a lot of pressure on the foreign exchange market itself. Because some people, there's a component of the demand that are just meant for ground keeping. People who have no business going to the foreign exchange market, but because of this huge margin, some of them will go there just to take advantage of arbitrage. And we have to, look around all of this and see how we can sort it out.
Okay, now we know that the rate has been in the economy for more than 6 months now. Have we achieved set objectives so far or not, in your thinking?
The objective of what?
The objectives of the rates that have been in the economy so far in 6 months.
The rates?
Yes.
Are you talking of interest rates or foreign exchange rates?
Foreign exchange rates.
No, we haven't. You can see what is happening to the rate. First, we have this huge differential between the official and the open market rate. Then secondly, we have this problem of liquidity of foreign exchange market. Those two issues are so critical. And the thing is that if you don't get it right with our foreign exchange management, it will be difficult to get it right with the entire economy. It is very important. And the way to also help the rate is to also ensure that we encourage more inflows from remittances, from export proceeds, from capital importation. There is no policy yet that we can see that is deliberately focused at attracting inflows. That is very critical. So we need to liberalize inflows. We should stop imposing rates on those that want to bring in foreign exchange into the economy. It should allow as many of them to bring in the forex as possible. Of course, I'm not saying that we should compromise the issue of money laundering and all of that. Of course, it has to be subject to some regulation. But we should not be too rigid in terms of insisting that if anybody, an exporter, is bringing his foreign exchange, for instance, it has to be at the official interbank rate. That is why many of them are not bringing their forex. And a lot of foreign exchange transactions are now taking place under the table, which is not also good for the economy. So we should liberalize and free the space as much as possible.
Okay, and talking about managing interest rates, we know there are peculiar ways of managing interest rates at period of recession like this. Can you shed more light on these ways, the peculiar ways of managing interest rates?
Well, the issue of interest rate, first, there is a fiscal angle to it. The rate at which the government is borrowing is also not helping the interest rate regime. The cost at which the government is borrowing is too high, and it's one of the major drivers of interest rate. I mean, if the treasury bill is going for 15%, 16%, that is also not good for an investment-friendly interest rate regime. So there is a fiscal, the rate at which government is borrowing needs to come down. The federal government bonds is also attracting as 15%, 16%. That is not good for the financial market because it is crowding out the private sector, it's obstructing financial intermediation, which we need in order to drive this economy. A lot of funds, rather than coming to invest, are going into treasury bills, are going into federal government bonds. That is depriving the economy of the most needed capital. So on the fiscal side, there's a lot that we need to do with regard to manage our debt and the cost at which we borrow. Then on the monetary side, I've said that already. We need to relax some of those types.
You've already said that.
Like the currency, the CRR, the liquidity ratio, and all those instruments of monetary policy to relax them a bit.
Okay. Now, many people are afraid that we are maybe actually moving towards depression. That's a scary word for many. In your opinion, have we done enough to tackle recession?
To tackle recession?
Absolutely.
No, I'm not sure we have done enough. I mean, we just have been discussing about some policy issues. Of course, there are some fundamental issues that are not within our control as a country, like the oil price and all of that. But we have this with the oil output. We have the challenge with the Niger Delta Avengers. We need to review our strategy of engaging with them so that in terms of the oil output, which is also still very critical to the economy, we can have something, we can have it sorted out so that we have stability in the inflow of revenue and in the inflow of foreign exchange. Then we also need to create confidence around the economy so that private sector capital can flow into the system. Because the government hasn't got the capital to stimulate this economy to a level that it drives us out of recession. So that is why we are talking about getting it right with our foreign exchange policy, getting it right with our trade policy, getting it right with our monetary policy. If we're able to tackle all of that, we are likely to see the much better inflow of private sector capital, either portfolio investment, foreign direct investment, or even domestic investment. Household spending. We need to also look at our tax policy to give more room for people to spend more at the level of business and at the level of the households. So these are some of the steps which I think, if we take, will help in moving us forward and getting the economy out of recession.
Thank you so much for your time, Muda Yusuf, Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Business Nigeria returns shortly. Do stay with us. You're watching Business Nigeria. A group of micro, small and medium enterprises operators wants the government to give them waivers in key areas of the economy. They believe that such action will boost trade and manufacturing. The group members met with tax officials of the government in Lagos on Tuesday. We'll bring you details right now in this report.
It was a gathering of tax professionals and business operators from the micro and medium-scale enterprises sectors. The big idea on their minds concerned ways to increase productivity and boost economic growth and development. Tax incentives appear as a credible tool to encourage local production. This has led some of them to advocate for separation of levels of taxes in the informal sector.
We've seen a lot of government policies, policies that are good, that are meant for the progress of MSMEs. We are just saying that those policies should be matched with relevant fiscal policies, monetary policies, so that the MSMEs can also contribute towards the GDP of the country.
I believe that if they give them that waiver, so many of them will become compliant. Those who are running away from paying their taxes because of the huge burden of the penalty that they have been running away from will now come forward willingly and voluntarily. Those taxes that have been escaping and will not be paid to the federal government, which will increase the revenue collection. That is just the spirit behind coming up with that amnesty.
A top government official was quick to respond to sundry demands by the business community, stressing that the government appreciated their roles in the economy.
Because of the nature of their business and their level of record keeping, we'll give them additional time to present their records. And it's only for small-scale businesses. All charges or levies or fees or even penalties are not taxes. So if they don't require a service, they don't pay for that service. If they don't have an infraction, they don't pay a penalty, so they cannot be classified as taxes.
Many analysts say that effective tax system is critical to getting the nation's economy out of the current recession.
The crude oil market has shown some signs of stability within the week. At the London markets, the premium Brent crude trades for $49 a barrel. Though the price margin is not wide, market observers are confident that activities could be harnessed. For the OPEC basket, price steadies at $42 a barrel. And that's our package for you on Business Nigeria. Join us another time for more comprehensive analysis on business in Nigeria. Thanks for your time. I am Ugochi Olulu.